Have you ever felt like you've been written out of your own story? Pushed to the side, your contributions ignored, your voice silenced? It's a feeling many of us know. But for one woman in history, this wasn't just a feeling. It was a deliberate, calculated campaign to erase her from existence. But they failed, because even after they tried to wipe her from the pages of history, her shadow never truly left the room. This is the story of Mileva Maric. You've probably heard of her husband, Albert Einstein. His name is synonymous with genius, his face an icon of scientific revolution. But what if I told you that behind the legend, behind the Nobel Prize, behind the theory of relativity, there was another mind, a brilliant physicist in her own right, whose name has been all but forgotten? Let's go back to the beginning. It's the late 1890s at the prestigious Zurich Polytechnic in Switzerland, at a time when women were rarely even admitted to universities, let alone programs for advanced physics and mathematics. A young Serbian woman named Mileva Maric wasn't just there. She was excelling. She was quiet, intensely focused, and by all accounts, exceptionally brilliant. And it was here she met a fellow student, a charismatic and equally ambitious young man named Albert Einstein. They weren't just classmates, they were intellectual equals, kindred spirits united by a burning passion for the mysteries of the universe. Their early letters are electric, filled not just with youthful romance, but with complex discussions about physics. Albert would write to Mileva, "How happy and proud I will be when the two of us together will have brought our work on relative motion to a victorious conclusion." Notice his words. Our work. The two of us. This wasn't a student asking his girlfriend for homework help. This was a partnership. They fell deeply in love, a bond forged in the crucible of shared intellectual discovery. But their path was far from easy. Albert's family fiercely disapproved of Mileva. She was older than him, she had a limp from a childhood illness, and she wasn't Jewish or German. They saw her as a distraction, an unworthy partner for their promising son. Despite the opposition, their collaboration deepened. They studied together, debated theories, and pushed each other's thinking. Friends from that time recall seeing them constantly together, heads bent over books and papers, lost in a world of their own creation. Then, in 1901, just before their final exams, a crisis struck. Mileva discovered she was pregnant. In the rigid society of the early 20th century, an illegitimate child was a scandal that could destroy a woman's reputation and career forever. Heartbroken, Mileva traveled back to her family in Serbia to give birth in secret. The fate of their daughter, Liesl, remains one of history's saddest mysteries. She disappears from all records, likely given up for adoption or succumbing to illness. Mileva returned to Zurich, her academic dreams shattered and carrying a secret grief that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Albert and Mileva finally married in 1903. That same year, Albert took a job at the patent office in Bern. Many see this as a dead-end job, but it was a blessing in disguise. It gave him a steady income and, crucially, free time. And who was by his side during these years? Mileva. The Bern apartment became their laboratory. They would work late into the night at their dining room table, surrounded by books and calculations. Then came 1905. It's known as Albert Einstein's Annus Mirabilis, or Miracle Year. In a single year, he published 4 groundbreaking papers that would forever change the course of physics, including the one on the special theory of relativity. It was an explosion of genius that secured his place in history. But was it his genius alone? Let's look at the evidence. We have their letters which speak of our work. We have testimonials from friends who saw them as an inseparable intellectual unit. A close friend, Milos J. Fabrio, remembered, "She was for him a muse. She gave him a human dimension. She calmed him and transmitted her own serenity and her lucidity." Even more telling, a respected Russian physicist, Abram Joffe, claimed to have seen the original manuscripts of the Miracle Year papers. He wrote in a memoir that they were signed Einstein-Marady, using the Hungarian version of Mileva's maiden name, Maric. This was a common practice in Switzerland for a husband to add his wife's surname to his own. The signature was later changed to just Einstein. Was this a simple clerical change, or the first step in writing Mileva out of the story? When Albert won the Nobel Prize in 1921, he didn't win it for relativity. The theory was still too controversial. He won it for the photoelectric effect, another of the 1905 papers. And what did he do with the prize money? He gave all of it to Mileva. Was this a guilty conscience? An alimony payment as part of their recent divorce? Or was it, as some historians now believe, her rightful share of the earnings from their joint work? As Albert's fame skyrocketed, their marriage crumbled. The brilliant, passionate partnership that had defined their youth dissolved under the pressures of fame, infidelity, and the lingering sorrow of their lost daughter. They divorced in 1919. Albert went on to become a global icon, marrying his cousin Elsa and moving to America. And Mileva? She was left behind in Zurich, raising their two sons, Hans Albert and Eduard. She struggled financially, even after receiving the Nobel money, using it to buy apartment buildings for income and to pay for the extensive medical care needed for their younger son, Edward, who suffered from severe mental health challenges. The brilliant physicist who once debated the nature of space and time with Albert Einstein spent her final years giving piano lessons and living in obscurity. When she died in 1948, she was buried in an unmarked grave. It was the final, tragic act of her erasure. For decades, that's where her story ended. She was a footnote, the forgotten first wife. But then, in the 1980s, their early letters were discovered and published. Suddenly, the world could see Mileva not as a shadow, but as a vibrant, intelligent woman who was an integral part of Einstein's journey. Historians and scientists began to re-examine the evidence, to piece together the fragments of her life. So, did Mileva Maric co-author the theory of relativity? We may never know for certain. The definitive proof, those original manuscripts, has vanished. But the question itself changes the story. It forces us to see that great achievements are rarely the work of a lone genius. They are often born from collaboration, conversation, and partnership. They tried to erase Mileva. They dismissed her as a mere sounding board, a domestic helper who tidied up while the great man worked. But they couldn't erase her letters. They couldn't erase the memories of those who knew them. They couldn't erase the tantalizing clues she left behind. Her shadow, the ghost of her contribution, still lingers in the margins of physics history, a powerful reminder of a brilliant mind that was silenced but never completely vanquished. Her story isn't just about what she might have contributed to science. It's about reclaiming a legacy that was almost lost to time. And in remembering her, we honor the countless other forgotten figures whose stories are just waiting to be told. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. Let me know in the comments what you think. Was Mileva a co-author, a muse, or something in between? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious.